What didn't burn by accident or for sport burned for cash. Arson was epidemic. Landlords and investors charring the last scraps of profit from decrepit properties, a depressing number of which were worth more as heavily insured ruins than as cheaply rented apartments or vacant commercial space. Some shifts, it seemed all of Worcester might burn to the ground. In the worst years, an engine crew would routinely fight 3 fires in a single night, and 5 wasn't uncommon. After a decade on the front lines, a flaming warehouse wasn't a particularly formidable foe. Potentially dangerous, sure. But predictable, not exceptionally different from 100 other skirmishes Mike had been through. He knew the best attack was in close. A 2.5-inch line sprayed out roughly 250 gallons every minute, enough to wash the life out of most medium-sized fires. But if the stream missed the flames, if it fell short and hit nothing but superheated air, all that liquid would atomize, instantly mushroom into steam, blow back and down in a scalding vapor. So he ordered his men, nearly blinded by the smoke and hobbled by the weight of their gear and the hose, to keep inching forward. Another 15 feet, 20 at the most. Mike was judging the distance to the flames not just by the heat, but also by his fresh memory of the building. This was the second time that night Engine 4, along with 3 other engines, 2 ladder trucks, and the rescue squad, the normal complement sent to a working fire, had been dispatched to Jake Street, a short block of squat brick warehouses and machine shops along the tracks of the Providence and Worcester Railroad. The first alarm for 82 Jake Street came in just after dinner, when the men in the Park Avenue station were wiping the last drops of gravy from their mustaches and splashing their plates into a sink of sudsy water. 3 tones sounded, abrupt and abrasive, electrified burps. Then the dispatcher's deadpan voice from the speaker bolted to the wall. Engine 2, Engine 4, Engine 5, Engine 10, Ladder 4, Scope 3, Rescue 1, Car 4. Striking box 1575 for a reported structure fire at 82 Jake Street. A dozen men were moving before the dispatcher started repeating the assignments, hustling into their turnout gear. In less than 12 seconds, every man was on his designated truck. The officers took the seats on the passenger sides of the cabs, where they could yank the air horn cords and toggle the sirens on and off. When Mike's boots hit the pavement outside the warehouse 3 minutes after the first tone, all of his men were ready to square off against an inferno. But there wasn't much of a fire left. When the first flames heated the air to 165 degrees or so, tiny metal plugs melted in the sprinkler heads plumbed through the building, opening the spigots and dropping a heavy shower on the fire. The only thing left for the firemen to do was shut off the main valve to the sprinkler system, soak a few embers, and then track down the owner of the building to tell him to replace his spent sprinkler heads and board up his doors and windows. A quick knockdown. 30 minutes later, they were back at the station, scrubbing the dinner dishes. If the fire had been accidental, then the sprinklers had saved the building and protected the men who came with their hoses and axes and ladders. If it had been arson, then it had been merely a setup fire, a prelude to a bigger, more devastating and dangerous blaze. With the sprinkler system disabled, the flames from a second torching could get a jump on the fire crews. In the unimpeded minutes before the fire department's arrival, 2 or 3 isolated ignition points could engulf the entire building. The second alarm for 82 Jake Street came in 3 hours after the first, shortly before 10 o'clock. Dispatch announced the same unit assignments, and all 12 men at Park Avenue, plus 8 more from the Webster Square station and 10 out of Central Street, quick-stepped back into their gear and onto their trucks. When Mike hit the pavement the second time, black smoke billowed through the roof and blown-out windows. The second floor was fully involved, a tangle of orange and yellow. A second alarm was struck. Headquarters dispatched another dozen men on 2 more engines and a 3rd ladder company. The driver on Engine 4 stayed with the truck, working the controls that regulate the water coming in from the hydrants and pump it out through the hoses. Mike and 2 of his men grabbed a coil of hose from the bed above the back bumper and lugged it toward a street-level door, up a staircase, and into a hallway. From the smoke and the sound, they knew the flames were raging somewhere behind a steel fire door that had rolled shut. Much the way the sprinkler heads had been activated by heat, the fire door had automatically closed when the heat melted a pin that held it open, the idea being to contain the fire to one room. Mike and his men